Next slide, please. So some of you may already be familiar with CALS, but our mission is to educate the next generation of animal law advocates and advance animal protection through the law. Next slide. It's my pleasure to introduce both myself and our other speakers for this event. My name is Reddy, and I'm the director of the Animal Law Program here at the Center for Animal Law Studies. And our featured speaker is Hira Jaleel, who is our teaching fellow as well as a 2020 alum of our Animal Law LLM program. It's also my pleasure to introduce Megan Senatori, who is the associate director here at the Center for Animal Law Studies. Next slide. And just as a bit of an overview, Hira will be discussing how to use your degree to really empower your ability to effectuate the interests of animals globally. And after that, Megan Senatori will be discussing some of the work that our alumni from our Animal Law LLM and MSL program are engaging in now. After that, we'll follow up with a Q&A. And if you have any questions, as Hira and Megan are giving their presentations, please be sure to use the Q&A function in Zoom, and you can enter those questions at any time. Next slide.
Thank you so much, Raj. So, hello, everyone. I'm Hira Jaleel, and I'm going to be talking about the global impact of an advanced degree in animal law. Specifically, I want to discuss why it's important to take a global, holistic approach to animal law, and also a little bit about how my LLM degree helped my career. So just first, a little bit about me. I'm originally from Pakistan, where I practiced general corporate commercial law as well as animal law for approximately 5 years. I came to Portland, Oregon for my LLM in animal law in 2019. And like Raj just mentioned, I graduated in 2020. After graduation, I went back to Pakistan, where I continued to practice animal law. I'm currently working at CALS as a teaching fellow, and I'm also co-teaching food law this summer. So a lot of the problems that animals confront all over the world are quite global in nature. And what do I mean when I say global? So when I say global, I'm referring to global in two ways. One is that animals situated in various parts of the world face similar problems. And two, that a lot of the animal law issues are transnational in nature, in that they have impact across boundaries, across national boundaries. And I just want to touch upon 3 such problems today. So firstly, we have the global problem of the law being woefully inadequate to protect animals. Some of you might already know this, some of you might not be familiar, but in most places, animals are legally considered property under the law. What does this mean? This means in practice that a lot of the ways, though of course not all of the ways, in which the law might view my cat is the same way that it might view my car, in that I can own, sell, dispose of, and to a large extent, do as I please, right, with my cat. However, we do know intuitively, right, that there's a massive difference between a car and a cat. A cat feels pain and suffering, forms attachments, feels hunger and thirst, and a car obviously doesn't feel all of those things. So this leads to a fundamental disconnect between the interests of animals and what the law actually protects. And because of this disconnect, the law allows humans to use and exploit animals in many ways, some of which are quite cruel. So for example, farmed animals are often routinely mutilated, castrated without anesthesia, separated from their families. And this is all something that the law allows for in a lot of places. Similarly, in a lot of places, the law allows for wild animals to be killed to manage their populations or when they're deemed to be invasive. I wish I could say that there's any country out there that's the gold standard for animal protection and whose laws do an amazing job at safeguarding the interests of animals. Unfortunately, in my experience, that's not the case. Some jurisdictions are certainly better than others in different contexts, but all over the world, there's a need for legal reform and there's a need for better legislation that meaningfully protects the interests of animals and also allows them to thrive in their environments. The next global problem I want to talk about is something that I've already touched upon, which is the rising spread of industrial animal agriculture. Worldwide, around 70 billion land animals are killed for food each year, and this isn't even counting aquatic animals. Most of these animals are raised in terrible confined conditions, and they're eventually slaughtered for food. And as I pointed out before, the law often fails to protect their interests. Furthermore, we have some other consequences of industrial animal agriculture, such as detrimental impacts to the environment, to human health, and also to human safety. Whereas industrialized animal agriculture was, previously seen as a way of animal farming that was mostly prevalent in the global north, we see that it's now slowly spreading across the world, and more countries are looking to develop their economies and increase their food production, as a result of which they're adopting more industrialized forms of animal agriculture. As a result, small farms and farmers are being run out of business, and big corporations are consolidating control over animal farming operations, which are resulting in these negative outcomes for humans, the environment, and animals. And so the challenge is, how can the law address this growth and impact of industrial animal agriculture around the world? And the last example that I just want to briefly talk about is also linked to the previous one. We're currently in the midst of a mass extinction event, and this one's being caused by human beings. Biodiversity loss and species extinction has accelerated to the point of being 100 to 1,000 times higher than natural background extinction rates. Human activities are continuously leading to species and biodiversity loss. And some of this, we don't even have the tools to document, because some species going extinct may not even have been discovered yet. And what's contributing to this? Pressures such as clearing land for farming operations, overhunting, domestic and transnational wildlife trafficking, habitat loss, climate change, they're all contributing and putting pressures on biodiversity loss, causing biodiversity loss. So once again, this is a subject or an issue that affects all parts of the world. And once again, the challenge here is, how can the law regulate human activity, such as to protect animal interests and lives, and to ameliorate some of these detrimental impacts that human activity is having on animal lives? So next slide, please. Having identified just 3 of these problems, you may wonder, well, but where does a degree in animal law come in to help tackle what seems to be these massive global challenges? Well, I would argue that the solutions to these problems are also global in nature. So, for example, most, if not all, countries need stronger legislation that elevates the status of animals as something more than property, and recognizes that animals have real interests and they experience real pain and suffering at the hands of human activities and human society. Stronger laws can include better protections against abuse and cruelty, safeguard animal interests, and cover a wide range of activities such as animal farming and wildlife crime. But the effort doesn't also just end with enacting stronger legislation, right? We also need to make sure that there's a way to enforce these laws that we already have on the books, or when we're passing new laws. So another key aspect of animal law, and a role that an animal advocate or a lawyer can play, is ensuring that those responsible for enforcing animal protection legislation are carrying out their mandate properly. And in the pursuit of this goal, animal lawyers and advocates are responsible for coming up with creative legal strategies to ensure that the law is operating as it should. What can these strategies look like? They can look like strategic litigation, lobbying, advocacy, or even teaching. Even if you're a non-lawyer, having knowledge of how the legal system operates in your country and what kinds of laws protect or don't protect animals can be beneficial when advocating for change in this space. Furthermore, like I mentioned before, a lot of the harms animals face are in fact transnational in nature. So wildlife crime is a great example of this. Wildlife trafficking and wildlife crime are a multi-billion-dollar global industry, and they're often organized criminal networks dealing with wild animals and wild animal parts, poaching, trafficking wild animals and parts across national boundaries. And a lot of the instruments currently on the books to regulate trade in wild animals are also international in nature. And a good example of this is an international convention called the Convention on the International Trade in Endangered Species, CITES. There are also calls for more international efforts to address wildlife trade, because it devastates and decimates entire species and populations of animals and hurts ecosystems. Knowledge of animal law, especially international and global animal law, is very useful when we're talking about some of these transboundary harms to animals, and when we're thinking about how the law can redress these harms. And lastly, I want to talk about why it's important to take a comparative or international focused approach to animal law. So firstly, each jurisdiction has its own unique perspective towards the law, right? And like I mentioned before, some are doing better than others in terms of laws that protect animals. Learning about different countries' approaches can help you learn what shape better laws can take, and then you can use that knowledge down the road. Using my own example, I used a lot of the knowledge that I gained during my LLM year to draft animal protection and animal health legislation for Pakistan at both the federal and provincial levels. My LLM really helped me gain a holistic knowledge of the different legislative approaches, and then I incorporated that into my own legislative drafting efforts. And I mean, this cuts both ways, right? So for example, in the US, companion animal laws might be stronger than those in certain other jurisdictions, but US-based advocates might be able to learn something from, for example, the European Union when it comes to farmed animal protection. So there's something to learn from other jurisdictions and other countries. And secondly, a global approach to animal law can really help you learn legal strategies or approaches that have been helpful in other parts of the world. So for example, if you were to opt for an advanced degree, some of you might learn about litigation efforts in the US to have certain animals like elephants or chimpanzees released from confinement using this particular kind of lawsuit called habeas corpus. And we now see that these efforts are now being replicated in other parts of the world with varying levels of success. So, and also on that note, an LLM with a global focus helps you interact with and create a network of animal advocates with whom you can collaborate and continue to learn from even after you've graduated. And I mean, the community of animal lawyers is quite close-knit, so that's always an advantage. Animal law really isn't an established field in a lot of countries, but it's definitely growing. And again, using my own example, it certainly wasn't an established field when I did my LLM, but now there are more and more people studying and pursuing it in Pakistan every year now. Some of the ways in which you can use your advanced degree to help animals include creating a nonprofit in the US, which does international work, or learning how to strategically litigate for animals, designing an animal law course that can be taught in your home country if there aren't any already, or even if there are ones and you think you can, create a new one. Filing a case or helping prosecute, using approaches that you learned during this program. And lastly, I just want to conclude by talking about some of the ways that I personally used my LLM degree to advocate for animals back in Pakistan. I mean, I've already touched upon how I used it to draft legislation, but I also use knowledge learned during my LLM to file cases to protect animals in Pakistan. My LLM year was the year that COVID-19 hit. And during my LLM, I learned about linkages between live animal markets and the spread of zoonotic diseases. So a few months ago, I filed a petition in the Lahore High Court, which is a court in the province that I used to practice in Pakistan, to have a particularly egregious live animal market in Pakistan shut down on grounds of animal welfare, public health, and public safety. Similarly, I use knowledge that I gained during my LLM year to teach an animal law course to law students in Pakistan. And this was the first ever animal law course that was taught in the country. And as Megan will shortly discuss, our other alumni have also used their animal law advanced degrees to make really meaningful impact for animals in their home countries, whether that country is the US or elsewhere. And so on that note, I'll turn it over to CAL's Associate Director, Megan Senatori, who's going to talk about some of the fantastic work that our alumni have been doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Hira. Thank you. That presentation was so insightful and did such a fantastic job of highlighting how you've used your degree and how our international students likewise use their advanced degree to help animals all around the world. So what I am going to do is just to highlight a few. We have many alumni. I'm just going to highlight 4 to show you the type of work that they do following graduation. We have a new MSL degree, which is an advanced degree for non-lawyers. So you'll note that in this presentation, I'm not yet highlighting any of our MSLs because they haven't graduated. So this presentation will be all of our LLM or lawyer alumni. So next slide, please, Danielle. First, I'd like to introduce you to Alice D. Concetto. She's a 2016 LLM alumni from France. And as Hira noted, some of our alumni go on to start their own nonprofit organizations, and that's precisely what Alice has done. She is the founder and executive director of the European Institute for Animal Law and Policy. And she has really become an expert in the European Union on animal advocacy and farmed animal welfare. She has done a host of work, but her most recent one is that she's leading a collaborative effort with, I believe, around 20 different organizations who are trying to ban the practice of chick and duck culling in the European Union. So Alice is one example of one of our alumni. If I could have the next slide. From Chile, and one of Hira's classmates is Diego Plaza. He is an LLM alumni from 2020, and he also started his own nonprofit, not one, but two. He is the founder of the Center for Chilean Animal Law Studies, SETA Chile, and also for Interspecies Justice Foundation. He is one of the people who has led litigation to free Sandai, who's an orangutan in the Chilean zoo. And most recently, Diego, as one of our global ambassadors, completed a project. He's the author and the academic contributor of a book on animal studies that includes works from 18 authors from Argentina, Chile, Mexico, Spain, and more. So that's Diego. Next slide, please. Gladys Kamsanyu, also in Hira's class, is joined us from Uganda for our LLM program. And Gladys is the head magistrate of Uganda's first and only specialized wildlife court. In fact, it's Africa's first and only specialized wildlife court. She adjudicates wildlife crime cases involving illicit wildlife products. And she was just featured last week in the Guardian. So if you follow us on social media, you can find the article about Gladys in the Guardian. Like so many of our others alumni, she also started her own nonprofit organization called Help African Animals. And that organization does animal protection work in her home country of Uganda. And then finally, as one of our global ambassadors, Gladys completed a project where she recently drafted a compendium of Ugandan animal welfare laws. So that is Gladys. Next slide, please. And then the last alumni that I'll feature today is Tony Gerrans. He is a 2019 alumni from South Africa. And Tony is the executive director of the African Operations for Humane Society International. He does an array of work there, including doing work on live export bans. He serves as a legal advisor on the Cape Animal Welfare Forum and served as a trustee of the Humane Education Trust and also helped a farm animal sanctuary in Franschhoek. I said that correctly. So those are just a few of our alumni. We have so many more. If I can have the next slide. Wanted to give you a sampling of how global the reach is of our advanced degree program. So we currently have 90 students or alumni that have been in the program. They hail from 30 countries. I've listed here all of the countries for you. That's both alumni and current students, both in our in-person and our online program. And as Hira did such a fantastic job highlighting, animal protection is really a global issue that we can all learn so much from one another about, looking at comparative animal law. And so this is an example of the reach of our advanced degree alumni and our current students. And I also noted that we have a couple of current students I saw who are participants today. So thank you for joining us, those of you who are there who are currently studying with us. So with that, if we could go to the next slide. Just wanted to give, before we move on to the Q&A, how you can stay connected with us at the Center for Animal Law Studies. You can join us for webinars like this, conferences and other events. You can sign up for our quarterly newsletter, and we'll put the link to do that into the chat. And we are on social media, we have YouTube where we have CLE videos that we do, as well as Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So you can follow us there to find ongoing events, speaking engagements, application deadlines, the article about Gladys in the Guardian, and other things of that nature. So please stay connected with us after today's presentation. So with that, we are going to, if I can have the next slide, turn this over for Q&A, and you are welcome to ask us questions about Hira's presentation substantively, questions about admissions, and you can use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen to do that. And while we wait for questions to come in, I have one for you, Dr. Reddy. Can you tell everyone what the deadline is for applying for our fall start for the online program and what that process is?
Yeah, so that deadline will be May 15th. And as long as you submit, I'll add all of your application materials by that deadline, you'll automatically be considered for any scholarship support that we offer. And once decisions are made, if admitted, you'll know exactly what type of scholarship we're able to offer you so you can make an informed decision about our animal law LLM or MSL program.
Great, thank you, Dr. Reddy. While we wait for any questions, I have one for you. Could either or both of you talk about how comparatively our courses address law outside of the United States? And it varies by course, certainly, but could one of you or both of you share some information about that?
I can go first.
Thank you, Hira.
Yeah, I definitely think that, well, it definitely is true that a lot of most of our courses have a comparative element to like varying extents. So some courses that we have are specifically about international and global animal law issues. So we have a course on international animal law that Professor Reddy can talk about in more detail because he teaches it. And we also have like a global wild animal course, which talks about some of these international wild animal treaties that I was just referring to in my presentation. But then even for other courses we have that are not internationally focused, we have comparative elements, either in the forms of assignments or in the forms of substantive lectures, where you would be comparing other jurisdictions that either have done with the US, that have either done better, again, legislation in certain areas, or just different legislation in certain areas, and where the law is advancing in unique ways.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that was an excellent answer. And what I'll add to that is, for my international animal law course, which we offer online, certainly we do comparative analyses of what advocates in one country have been able to do and how advocates in other countries, other locales can borrow from or replicate some of those successes. Also observing, potential pitfalls that advocates have experienced. And so other advocates know, potentially what to be on the lookout for. And as, Hira said, animal law is international. And in my in-person animal legal philosophy course, I do a lot of comparative work, what countries, and again, as Hira spoke to, had advanced animal legal personhood developments. And a lot of those same substantive lectures are included in our online programming as well. So, what efforts have been successful and what arguments have been successful, and how can advocates replicate those successes using some of those same foundations, whether it's borrowing from a civil law system or a common law system, but really putting those conversations into practice with their advocacy.
Wonderful. Thank you both for answering that. We have some questions now. First of all, welcome from Brazil to the person who is joining us. And the question is to all presenters as advocates for animal rights and law, could you discuss how the LLM program in animal law encourages collaboration and synergy between international and US-based students to address animal welfare issues through lobbying efforts, both domestically and globally? Additionally, has the program included a specific course or curriculum focused on lobbying or political engagement to further advance animal rights legislation? And then there's a third one, and I'll remind you of what these are. How do you believe those initiatives can positively impact the animal protection movement on a global scale? So I don't know which of you would like to tackle all or some parts of that question. It was a great question. Thank you.
I know, here, if you want to speak to maybe your personal experience, and then I can chime in as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think that there's a lot of synergy in the program generally between US and international students, and US-based and international students. And I think that, again, I touched upon this a little bit in my presentation about incorporating nonprofits. So I feel like this is one way that a lot of the students in the program stay connected to the US and establish synergies, where they'll establish a nonprofit in the US and they'll kind of work on that, and they'll be working, and the projects that they'll be doing through those nonprofits would have an international focus, but their nonprofits will be registered in the US. And a lot of the collaborations that they might be doing with other lawyers or other students might be in the US, but again, the impact of that work is being felt globally. or wherever their nonprofit is working. So I think that's just a great example of how students and professionals, animal law professionals, collaborate both here and internationally.
Great, thank you, Hira.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. We learn so much from what others are doing, and a number of our students are current students and alumni have worked on legislation and lobbying and drafting, questions and for their assignments or as part of a paper for another class. And, really it's being part of Lewis and Clark means that you're part of a family, and that continues long after graduation. And so just as one example, I'm working on a convention on animal protection that involves colleagues from a number of law schools and international law firms. And I integrated a couple of my students from this year and previous years to help with that effort. And one of them is actually from Brazil. So her name is Vanessa Gishkau Garbini, and she's still part of our steering group. She and I work together to reach out to advocates on the ground in other countries, but also heads of environmental sort of protection administrative agencies and the like, to again sort of advance these animal welfare issues through not just sort of an animal lens, but a more holistic One Health sort of paradigm. And again, really drawing upon our students and alumni internationally to advance Cal's sort of global reach.
Great, thank you. And those were wonderful questions. We appreciate that. And thank you for joining us from Brazil today. This next question I'm going to direct to you, Dr. Reddy. Is the LLM suited for recent graduate students? And in answering that question, could you discuss the difference between the LLM and the MSL? I think would be helpful as well. I touched upon that briefly in my comments, but just to give more oversight on that would be, I think, helpful.
Sure. The great thing about the LLM program, both in person and online, is that we have a range of students in the program who've come through the program. So they're at all different ages. Obviously, for the LLM program, a requisite is that the applicant have a JD or an LLB if they're an international candidate. There are also some potentially other qualifying degrees. And for the MSL program, the requisite is that the candidate have a bachelor's, regardless of what discipline it's from. But the LLM is certainly suited for recent graduates. We have had graduates who just completed, their LLB, and because animal law isn't necessarily robust or offered in their country, they look to Lewis and Clark, and they look to Lewis and Clark even, during the 4th or 5th year of their LLB to try to sort of pave their pathway to our program. And when they go back home, whether it's within their region or their network or their country, they are the animal law expert. And we have had so many students come through our program who go back home and they start doing the work that a lot of people want to do and that politicians or policymakers are interested in, but don't know necessarily who is qualified to do that work. And having an animal law LLM or an animal law MSL really sort of sets you apart, credentials you in that way. And again, you can draw upon a vast network of animal law LLM graduates and current students to effectuate whatever sort of vision it is that you have for the work that you want to do globally, in the US or back in your home country.
Great, thank you. That was helpful. Hira, do you have anything you want to add to that one?
No, I completely agree that the LLM is great for recent graduates, especially if you have a clear vision of, or if you're really clear about the fact that you're definitely interested in animal law. I think that's the prerequisite more than when you graduated, because like Raj said, and I can personally attest to this, I think the LLM in animal law credential made a huge difference in my own practice, in my own advocacy for animals. And when I went back to Pakistan, I was taken much more seriously as an animal lawyer than I was without the degree. And so I think it definitely, if you have a real passion and interest for advocating for animals through the law, then that's what you should be looking at, or that's the factor you should be considering.
Great. I also just want to emphasize that our student body in the animal law advanced degree program is really varied in terms of experience. We have brand new graduates. We have people who are mid-career and are joining us, and they really have very diverse backgrounds in animal law. Some people, because of animal law not being offered readily in many places, they've been practicing animal law, but they actually never had an opportunity to study it. So I would encourage applicants from whether you're a brand new law graduate and you didn't have animal law at your school, don't feel like that's a reason you couldn't get a specialized degree in it. And likewise, mid-career professionals gain really valuable experience, even if they're already practicing animal law, by obtaining their LLM or their MSL. So I have a question from Romania. Thank you for joining us from Romania. And the question is, could you please share from your perspective the criteria of a successful candidate for the MSL?
Sure.
I'll do that one, Dr. Reddy.
Yeah, and so as I noted earlier, the actual sort of technical requirement is that the candidate possess a bachelor's, and in addition to that, some of the qualities that we look for an MSL candidate is the same as for an LLM candidate: a real passion for advancing the interests of animals through the legal system. And even though the MSL isn't designed to equip you to practice the law, effectuating the interests of animals, securing the interests of animals is best done through legal support and through the legal system. And so successful candidates often demonstrate, this is why I'm interested in this particular sort of area of the law, or this is why I'm particularly interested in advancing the interests of animals. And I have looked at potentially, the courses that you offer, and this is how I believe that they would empower me to do the type of work that I want to do back home. And it's something that I can't emphasize enough. We really want to see, how does the candidate see our program really empowering them to affect change? And for some, it's, direct advocacy. Some, it might be, legislative draftings. For some, it might be policy work. For some, it might be scholarship and teaching. And all of those are valid and really exciting reasons for us to, welcome a candidate into the program. So, really, just as much as you could tell us about yourself and, your interests and how you see the law advancing your career or your interest in this field, I think that's probably the most important quality.
Great, thank you. And to emphasize something that Dr. Reddy said earlier, all applicants to our program are also eligible for scholarships. So when you apply to the program, you're automatically considered for scholarship support as well. And so emphasizing all of those things that Dr. Reddy just talked about is also very helpful for scholarship applications. It's not a separate process. We'll see if there are any other questions coming in, but in the meantime, I have another question that we often receive from international applicants, which is the program accredited? We get lots of questions about, is this an accredited program? So Dr. Reddy, do you want to tackle that one?
Sure. So our program is fully approved by our regional accreditor, the Northwest Consortium of Colleges and Universities. And so that applies both to our MSL program and our LLM program. And the ABA acquiesces to certain degrees beyond the JD. And so that applies to both the LLM and the MSL program here at Lewis and Clark. So both sort of formally recognized by sort of the national sort of governing body, the American Bar Association, as well as our regional body.
Thank you for that. Is there any other questions? We'll just wait a moment in case anyone would like to add another question to the chat. And otherwise, I thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Hira, for the wonderful presentation and the insight as to how you've used your degree on a global basis, and Dr. Reddy for helping to answer everyone's questions. Thank you for coming today, and don't hesitate to reach out. What's the best way to reach out? Dr. Reddy, I'll direct that question to you. If people have questions after this program, is it the cals@lclark.edu address?
Yeah, so if you have any questions, yeah, certainly reach out to us at cals@lclark.edu. You can also find more program information on our website, centerforanimallawstudies.org. And if any of your questions aren't answered there, don't hesitate to reach out to us because we'd be happy to talk to you.
And in the meantime, we got 2 more questions, so I'm going to address those or read them to you and let you all address them. We have someone joining us from Germany. Thank you so much for joining us. Would the program also be suitable for corporate lawyers who want to create awareness for large companies for the protection of animals?
Absolutely.
Hira is enthusiastically nodding. So Hira, I'm going to turn that one over to you.
Absolutely, because again, from my own personal experience, I was a corporate commercial lawyer, both before and after my program, actually. And at least some of the clients I got for filing cases were corporations or people who worked in corporations who were concerned about a particular animal issue. In this case, the particular case that I'm referring to was the indiscriminate killing of street dogs by state authorities. And we filed cases on behalf of corporations or people working for corporations to address this issue or to challenge this issue. So 100%, I think there's a lot of synergy between any sort of law and animal law, really. And whatever practice you're currently doing, you can definitely fit animal law into it very seamlessly.
Wonderful. Thank you. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Raj?
I think that was perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great question. I just want to underscore what Hira said as well. My background is also in private practice in civil litigation here in the United States. And I felt like I made a huge difference for animals being in that setting because it was outside of the normal realm of where a lot of animal law practitioners are. So you reach a greater audience. You have the opportunity to make change that you might not otherwise have by sort of being there in the levers of power. So I completely agree with what Hira said. That was great. I have a question about what the writing sample should contain.
Yeah, this is a great question. It's the question that we get a lot. The writing sample should basically demonstrate, your ability, and this is for MSL candidates. The writing sample should basically indicate or, allow the admissions committee to, observe the ability to read closely, to analyze information, and, to write argumentatively and objectively. And so for most candidates, this is really just the type of paper you'd probably get in one of your college level courses that isn't sort of a personal essay or creative in nature. But those, I think, again, just allow the admissions committee to ensure that, if you're accepted, that you have sort of the skills necessary to thrive in the program because, our sort of first and foremost interest is making sure that that you're succeeding in our courses, and that's just a way for us to sort of better appreciate that you have those skills.
Great, thank you. We have someone joining us from Spain. Welcome, where it is evening. The question is that I'm interested in animals in the law, but I'm a veterinarian. Am I a right candidate for your law programs?
I think you should take that.
I may take this one to start and then I'll have you both join us. Absolutely is my answer. And the reason that Raj deferred to me on that is because one of the emerging topics courses that we'll be offering is veterinary animal law, which is one of the courses that I will be teaching. And as a veterinarian, I think having background legal knowledge is exceedingly important if you want to do animal protection work. The reality is that veterinarians are very influential in making policy about animal welfare, and understanding how that intersects with the law and what changes can be made is really important. And likewise, it's very important for lawyers, people in our LLM program, to understand how to work with veterinarians, because veterinarians have important roles as expert witnesses, consulting witnesses. They're involved in investigations and forensics, all kinds of examples. So I think there should be and can be a better way for lawyers and veterinarians to work together and find commonality on animal protection issues. And that's sort of the goal of that particular class. But beyond that class, all of our classes have components where there are guest lecturers who might be veterinarians. Veterinarians are important, of course, in industrial animal agriculture, in the research and testing realm, lots of different areas. So that's just a little snippet of it. But yes, absolutely, veterinarians would be great candidates for our MSL program. And I don't know if Hira or Raj, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, and on that note, actually, just this morning, I recorded a guest lecture for my food law course with a veterinarian.
Great.
Yeah, so definitely I echo everything Professor Senatori said. And Food law is another area where I was just going to mention. So the course that I'm teaching, one of the modules that I'm focusing on is related to animal health legislation. Animal health legislation is also something that I was personally involved in drafting in Pakistan. And of course, like veterinary legislation, animal health legislation, all of that is super important for the food system and safeguarding the food system. We know the concept of, if you're a veterinarian, you might be familiar with the concept of One Health and safeguarding human, animal, and environmental health, and the key role that veterinarians play in that system. So definitely, like, I think a veterinarian is close to an ideal candidate for our program.
Great. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
I mean, we might as well,
I know we have to, right?
Embrace this veterinarian question. Yeah, you know, in my international animal law course, one of the modules focuses on similarly, you know, global health and the World Organization for Animal Health, and speaks to just how vital having veterinarians be stakeholders and in these sort of animal welfare-based questions, because they are, I think, sort of a key conduit between sort of animal advocates and corporations and industrial interests. And I think insofar as they are well versed in some of this legal framework that implicates the interests of animals in some of these use settings, you know, they're a significant part of the solution to the myriad problems that we face.
Great. I want to ask a question that's not in the chat, but I think it may be helpful for some of those in attendance, because we have received several questions from people that would presumably be juggling their current career and the online program. Can you talk a little bit about what it means that the program is asynchronous? What kind of time can people expect to devote to it? What is a day like for an asynchronous student generally, or particularly one that is juggling it with their current profession? Because we have many people doing that. So.
Sure. The majority of candidates in our online program are working full-time, have family commitments. I'll say that, you know, the online program does require a lot of candidates as well. And so generally speaking, candidates take 2-3 credit courses a semester if you're an international candidate, or you are an MSL candidate. You, in your first semester, you're also taking a 2-credit introduction to U.S. legal studies course to equip you with sort of the content and the make you conversant in some of these sort of legal terms and their applications, reading cases, and the like. But over the course of a week, a student might be expected to dedicate between, you know, 12 and 18 hours to their coursework. And most of our candidates carve out time on the weekends to tackle most of their readings, to watch most of their lectures. As an asynchronous program, really, you know, except for maybe, you know, the requirement that a student contribute to a discussion board midweek, you're doing it on your own time, at your own pace. You're carving out sort of the hours of your day to sort of meet your work or your family or other obligations, but also your coursework. And yeah, it's certainly true of all of our candidates. The program is demanding, but the program, you know, gives them so much. And by the time that they're done with the program, oftentimes what we hear is that, you know, they find that they have so much time that they need to fill, and they're just really excited about how much they've learned in such a short period of time.
That's great. Thank you. Two new questions. One is, what are the general credentials of a scholarship recipient for the LLM?
And this is a great question, and it changes year by year depending on how many, you know, candidates we get. So I couldn't give you sort of a blanket answer to that question. You know, oftentimes these are the candidates that excite us the most, and whether that's the sense of they have, for example, have done some animal law work, or that they really have shown us how their animal law LLM or even animal law MSL degree is going to empower them to do certain type of work in the future. And to the extent that that really excites the admissions committee, to the extent that the admissions committee feels confident, you know, and this I think is the most important thing, feels confident that this student will succeed in the program. And, you know, that could be showcased by having done some animal law work before, but not necessarily That could be indicated by, having maintained, strong grades and, having done some volunteer work, whether it's animal law related or not, or having, a really strong writing sample or strong letters of recommendation, again, that just encourage the committee to see that this person is going to be not just a great student, but also a great alum of the program. Because like I said, we consider you, once you come through the program, to be a member of the CALS family. And, we continue to engage with you, well after you graduate. So
yeah, that was great. Thank you. And just to underscore, the letters of recommendation are really important. Having somebody who can vouch for why you're a great candidate, how you would make a difference with the degree, your character, all of those kind of things also really help, because we have very competitive applicants and people who are doing lots of wonderful work. So that type of letter of recommendation is really helpful for scholarships. I have a question from someone who's an undergraduate working on a wildlife biology BS, and they're wondering how much post-educational experience with wildlife and animals would you recommend before applying to be an MSL candidate?
So this is a great question. We have a lot of candidates in the MSL program who have just graduated with their BA or their BS, and they don't necessarily, it's not necessarily the case that they've cultivated a lot of postgraduate experience. And so I would not necessarily say that you need to have had sort of hands-on or field study work to apply to the MSL program, even though that might be helpful, particularly if you're interested in some, wildlife issues, whether that's global wildlife and animal trade or domestic, wildlife issues. We have a global wild animal law course, and a number of our other courses sort of implicate wildlife issues, but you don't necessarily have to have had any sort of experience. But I would say, to sort of turn the question on its head, if you're interested in these issues, it might be helpful for you to have, either not maybe through a formal sort of position, but through volunteer work, have sort of cultivated some experience with some of these issues to really know, like, this is really what I want to do. And even though the MSL program isn't geared towards, hands-on type work with animals, but have cultivated that experience, again, will allow you to see just what the program might mean for you and for your sort of career or other goals.
Great, thank you. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that one, Hira?
No, just basically the same thing, that it depends on what kind of benefit you're looking to get out of the program as opposed to what the requirement is. Because again, like Professor Reddy said, if you have some experience, then it's usually a bit more beneficial for you, because you have a more nuanced understanding. You know what you're interested in, like even within wildlife, are there specific kinds of animals that you're interested in, knowing or learning more about. But also, you can get a more nuanced understanding of how the law is implicated in protecting or not protecting wild animals, for example. So that's kind of a decision you will have to kind of make for yourself.
Great, thank you, Hira. So with that, I think we will go ahead and wrap up. There are no further questions. Thank you to everyone who submitted questions. As a reminder, the deadline for fall 23 admission for the online program is May 15th of this year. Any questions you have, don't hesitate to reach out. cals@lclark.edu. Somebody asked, I'm going to take this as the last question because I don't want to leave everybody. Somebody got one there under the wire. One more question is, what kind of projects can you be involved in while you're in the program? Which is a very good question. So I didn't want to leave it behind. Which of you would like to take that one?
Sure. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please. Yeah.
So a number of our students, we have the very first animal law journal dedicated exclusively to animal law issues in the world. And we have in the past had students in the online program participate as source checkers for the animal law review. We also have the first Animal Legal Defense Fund student chapter. And so insofar as we have sort of online programming, students often participate in that. I'll also add, we are co-hosts of the annual Animal Law Conference, which this upcoming year in October will be held in Los Angeles. It'll be the 31st annual. And oftentimes our students are able to attend, whether they're in person or online students. And it's a really wonderful opportunity to, reconnect or connect, in person if you're in the online program with your peers, with your professors, with alum. And again, it's an exceptional experience. But I will say with the online program, because so many of the students have, oftentimes work obligations and family obligations, most of the curriculum is pretty set in terms of your progression through it. So it's usually, coursework focused, but, you're always welcome to reach out to me as the director of the program to, express what other interests you have. And, we try to network you with other advocates, with other students, whether they're Lewis and Clark affiliated or not, because we really want to help you reach your career goals.
Great.
Yeah, and I would just add to that even within your courses, there are opportunities to pursue projects that you're interested in. So our emerging topics courses have historically been good examples of this, where you can create a website or create a certain kind of or work on a project that is of interest to you specifically, as part of the course, as a final project for the course, for example. So that's also a way that your independent interests are kind of incorporated within coursework as well, and you don't necessarily need to do something outside of your online study to be involved in a project of interest.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for joining us on behalf of all of us at the Center for Animal Law Studies. We appreciate your time today. And it was so encouraging to see people joining us from Spain and Romania and Brazil and all around the world. So thank you. Reach out at cals@lclark.edu if you have any follow-up questions, and we hope to see your applications in May.